Today's project is going to be replacing this front door. I'm also going to be replacing the knob set and deadbolt. Now I'm not making any changes to the door frame, so I'm going to be using the same size door that I've got here now. The first thing to do is measure up the existing door. Now this door is 820 wide, 20/40 tall, and 40mm thick. And that is a standard door size, so I can go and get a direct replacement. So using those measurements, I can then select a door that's going to fit straight in. Now when choosing a new door, I would recommend going for a solid door. A lot of modern doors are a veneer with a hollow core and a cardboard structural support. And I would not recommend these for external use. Now the back door actually was one of those hollow core doors that was used when the house was built, and it has not stood up to the test of time. You will pay a little bit more, but highly recommend getting a solid door. Now if you're painting the door, I would recommend using a good primer and then a semi-gloss exterior top coat. I've opted to use a stain and varnish for the front door. So starting off by removing the old front door. You can see here on the old door these insets for the hinges so they sit flush against the door, and that's what I need to replicate in the new door. Now I'm going to use this old door as a template for the new one. So measuring from the bottom of the door, I can work out where I need to make these insets. If you've got a glazed door like this one, you want to make sure you're getting the beading on the outside of the door. That's the piece of timber around the glass that holds it in place. So just make sure you've got the door the right way before you start. So then measuring and marking those hinge placements. So now with all those marked in, I can get the chisel and place it on that line with the flat side facing out. And then with the beveled side of the chisel facing down, I can start to chisel those slots out. And then just working the rest of it by hand with the chisel, the beveled face down. Now I would normally have the hinge handy so that you can test fit it and see that it's sitting flush. The hinges in the frame have been riveted in, and I don't have my rivet gun handy, so I'm not going to take them off. So that's now looking really good. Time to do that for the other two spots. So with all three of those spots notched out, now just got the door chocked up on some weights and cardboard to the right level and just checking, and all of those hinges are sitting in there nice and flush. I can now screw the door into place. So the door is now attached and swings nicely. So now it's time to move on to the knob set and the deadbolt. I'm going to be using this Lane knob set and deadbolt for the install. So they do give you this template that you can use. You basically fold along this dotted line, place that on the corner of the door, and then drill your holes from there. But I do prefer just to measure and mark the holes. Because I'm keeping the existing strikes, I'm going to use these to work out where to install the knob set and the deadbolt on my door. So now I'm measuring the top and the bottom of the hole in the strike. If I add those together, divide by 2, that's going to give me the center point for my latch. And I am measuring from the floor, not from the door frame. So now with the door closed, I can measure out that spot and mark it. Then using my square, I can mark a line to the front of the door and around the front and around the other side. I'm going to mark the center of the front of the door. This is a 40mm door, so marking at the 20mm mark. The latch I'm using has got a 60mm back set, so I'm going to mark a 0.60 mils from the front face of the door here. I'm going to do the same on the outside of the door. I've now marked in the spot for the deadbolt using that same process. The instructions that came with the knob set tell you what size hole to drill, and for me it's a 54mm hole, which I'm going to drill out with a hole saw. I'm going in halfway from one side and halfway from the other side to avoid splintering. Now I need to drill a 1-inch hole through the front of the door for the latch. Now I've got to insert the latch into that hole, get it parallel, and then trace around it. So now with my chisel, I can punch around that outline that I've traced with the beveled side facing inwards. Then with the beveled side out, I can chisel out this notch. And then just work the rest of the material out by hand. So that's looking pretty good now. I can slide the latch in and it's sitting flush, making sure that that is facing the right way. So you want the lower side facing towards where it's going to close. I can now screw this into place. I can then install the outside knob, making sure the keyhole is facing down. I can then install the knob on the other side, making sure to line up this flat bar with the slot inside of this. And then using the provided screws, screw that into place. Might be a little bit fiddly just to line those screws up with the spots on the inside. And that's the knob set installed. Quick test to make sure it's going to latch into place. Can lock it, unlock it. Now I've just got to do basically that exact same process for the deadbolt. So with that all drilled out, I can now slide the deadbolt in and it's marked which side faces up. So that notch is now looking good, so I can put the deadbolt in here and screw it into place. So finally I can put the deadbolt locks on, and starting with the outside, I want to start with the blank face one so that the screws are on the inside, and then lining them up, I want to line these two forks up through the door like that. Also making sure that the keyhole faces down, and then slide that fork through the little cross in the latch. Like that. Then putting the inside lock on, also making sure that that keyhole is facing down. Line those forks up and slide it into the latch. Like that. Then using the screws to screw it into place. This can be a little bit fiddly just to get those screws to line up with where they need to go. And that is the knob set and deadbolt installed. So that was fairly straightforward. The instructions that come with the knob set and deadbolt are really good. They've got all the dimensions and where you need to mark your holes and what size. So if you follow that, you'll be fine. Now all I've got to do is clean up this mess I've made and take the plastic protective sheets off the glazing, and I'm all done.